Everybody knows someone that owns or has owned a Land Rover Discovery, but are they much chop and is it worth upgrading if you own an old one? Well, today we're going to discover. So the big news is that 4-cylinder is back. In fact, this one here is 4 cylinders. I don't know how I feel about that. This is a big car, but we will find out soon whether it works. The design is the bit that everyone's talking about, and a lot of you aren't talking about it in a good way, but I can tell you in person, it looks sensational. I love these optional LED lights at night time. These things look super cool. Signature front grille there, and if you move around to the side, 4.97 metres long and 2.2 metres wide. That makes it 141 millimetres longer than the last Discovery. So this is still a really big car. Does this look familiar? It should, because it's the hoop at the back that fits the 7 adults. That's what Discovery has always been known for, so I'm glad to see that still here. Now, this is the bit that everyone's talking about. They're not sold on the rear end. Look, it looks good in person, that's all I can say, and this is the coolest bit. LED lights, remind you of RoboCop looking back at you. Very cool stuff.
So we know the Disco will spend most of its time in and around the city, but is it still true to its heritage when you take it off the beaten track?
If you've always had dreams of going off-road but still need a family SUV, that's where the Discovery comes into its own. It's one of the only SUVs in this segment with a serious off-road bent. Even though you have enough room inside, it's good and capable for a weekend away. And I'm talking about things like a center differential lock, a rear differential lock, and air suspension that can give you up to 283 millimeters of ground clearance. That is huge. That's 43 mil more than the previous Discovery. If you're not a four-wheel drive expert, no need to panic. Land Rover has a system called Terrain Response. We've got it set in auto at the moment, but you can flick that lever up and it'll switch between grass, gravel, snow. It'll go through mud ruts, then to sand, and finally to rock crawl. So what we're going to do now is demonstrate the amount of wheel articulation you get here. We've got here what we call an offset mogul, and it is going to stretch this car to its absolute limits, 500 millimeters of wheel articulation, and we're going to use every single one of those right now. So we bring it into the center here. As we get to the center, the car's going to start seesawing. There it is right there. So currently we have 2 wheels entirely off the ground. That air suspension has pulled them entirely out, and I just literally lean on the throttle and we are out of there. It is so easy to use. Okay, brake over angle, that is how many degrees you have at the center of the car as you're driving over a steep incline that then turns into a descent. 27.5 degrees is the figure for the Disco, and right now we are on one, only just touching the bottom there, and again, just light on the throttle and it's out of there. So preserving your car when you drive over rocks is pretty important, so we're going to throw it here into the rock crawl setting. What that does is it reduces sensitivity on the throttle, which means that instead of it jarring the car forward every time I breathe on the throttle, it's just giving it a bit more relaxation so that we don't fly over these rocks and damage the underbody. We have the suspension in its full ride height at the moment, and it is beautifully moving over these. It's already selected low range, so we are just nicely coming over this. Again, it's always just very light on the throttle. You don't want to find yourself surging here, and not a drama in the world. Again, Land Rover takes it to the next level in terms of four-wheel driving with this display. So this is your 4x4 information screen. It always shows you what's going on with the car. So everything from the level of locking on the rear differential to the level of locking on the center differential and what each wheel's doing. So as I clamber up this pretty steep incline, it's telling me that the center differential is fully locked, so it's sending torque to all 4 wheels, and I just go over it without it stopping us at all. This is the meat of the Disco's four-wheel driving. It is hill ascents and descents. Now, I've got to put this into context. This is a very steep hill. The last time I was here was in a Prado, and this was dry, and it sort of walked up with a bit of a struggle, but it made it up okay. This is now wet, and I am a bit concerned. Far out, this is working so well. And I'm watching this screen here. It's showing me what the differentials are doing. So currently, center and rear diff are fully locked. Flash of the traction control light there. Man, this is good. Low range here, it's walking up nicely, and the throttle modulation's perfect. It's not jarring or throwing me forward, it's just coming up gradually, and I feel like I have full control over the car. The most challenging part of every steep hill is coming back down, and this is where the Disco has things mastered. So we're going downhill now. I have it in hill descent control mode, and even though this is quite a slippery surface, it's giving me enough control over the speed. I can then go faster or slower with the cruise control. So by one click of that, it'll vary the speed a little higher, and then if I push it down, it'll slow down again. This isn't sounding anything like a lot of hill descent control systems in other four-wheel drives, again like the Prado. It sounded like a machine gun. It's quite unrefined. This, even if it has to grab the brakes every now and then, is doing everything in whisper quiet silence. So most SUVs in this segment will wade, and that means going through water, anything up to maybe 5, 6, maybe even 700 millimeters in depth. The Discovery, on the other hand, will do 900. So let me put that into perspective for you. There's 900 there. So what they're saying is that Land Rover will guarantee if you find 900 mil worth of water, this will go through without water coming into the car. Today we tested it up to about 700 mil through a mud bath, and it kind of felt like it wasn't doing it justice. So we had to find this. This is a special facility used by the Army to test cars up to 2.4 metres in depth. And we've set it to 900 millimetres, which is exactly where this car will wade up to. Let's see what happens. So this is tricky because this is exactly 900 mil deep. We're going to be a little bit deeper as we come in, but I'm more worried about the exit, which is a 27-degree ascent. This is all either going to go really well or it'll make for a great YouTube video. So we're in our highest setting. I have it in low range as well. Let's see what happens. All right, down we go. Okay, so we're touching down into the water now. This is, I'm going to turn that off. This is a 17-degree entry here. I can hear the water pooling around the doors at the moment. Oh man, I can literally hear the water right there. Okay, so far so good, no water's come in. Now this is the hard bit, so the steep ascent. Okay, up we go, up we go. All right, let's see, we might actually have that touch down at the back there a little bit. Oh, okay, we're climbing, climbing, climbing. All right, we got this. I've got a steep break over here as well. We're gonna touch down, no. Oh, look at that. That is absolutely amazing.
This is the type of thing that sets the Discovery apart from others and proves it's still a master off-road. But what can you expect in terms of day-to-day technology?
So if, unlike me, you're sporty and you enjoy water sports and stuff like that, you're going to want a solution for your car key because you can't get it wet and you can't hide it somewhere around the car. Well, Land Rover has the answer. It's called the activity key. So with this thing on, you're able to go into sub-zero temperatures and all the way up to about 90 degrees Celsius. But the best bit is, it is entirely waterproof. So you can get water on it and it will still unlock the car. Let me demonstrate. So here's the scenario. You've just come back from your kayaking adventure and you want to get back into the car. All you do is take the activity key, tap it on the D on the Discovery badge, the car unlocks, and then you're good to go. The key that you actually left in the car remains disabled while it's locked, which means even if someone broke into it, they wouldn't be able to start the car. This is without doubt the best part about the Discovery. It's sitting up here in the front row. It literally feels like you've moved from your favorite armchair at home straight into the car. It's just such a comfortable place. All of the touch points like this here, you've got yourself an armrest as well, the steering wheel, it all just feels nice and soft and premium. Even the rest of the dash just feels really well put together. Then you've got this infotainment system, 8 inches, it's a color touchscreen, but the downside is that it doesn't have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You have to download some Land Rover app and fiddle around with that to get extra connectivity. Just not really a big fan of it. Dual zone climate control and stacks of storage. So cup holders, you've got the top tier of the center console and the second tier, watch this. My arm almost completely disappears, that's how long it is. Lots of versatility there. In terms of security for your passengers, if you get a child undoing a seatbelt, you're gonna know about it because up the front here, it shows you a graphic with all 7 seats. So even if there's a kid in the 3rd row and they undo their seatbelt, you're gonna be the first to know about it. You will never need to upgrade your SUV for space because even as your kids grow, this thing will offer enough room. So I'm a full-size adult and this seat is pretty much all the way back, and check that out. I have stacks of knee room and look at the headroom. I mean, you can almost fit another person above my head. It's also really comfortable here as well. You've got a center armrest there with 2 cup holders. You have 5 ISOFIX points. So 1 in the front seat, 2 on the outboard seats here, and 2 in the 3rd row. In terms of connectivity, you have 2 12-volt outlets, a storage bin there as well. You can also option 2 additional USBs here for just an extra $240 if you need to do that. Ambient LED lighting as well, and these awesome looking sunroofs. And you also have plenty of storage with a couple of matte pockets in the back of the seats. But what if you're a designated driver for 6 of your burly mates? That's why you're buying a Discovery. You know that it can carry 7 adults. We're going to test that, but first 40, 20, 40, which means you can drop this down and give yourself a bit more room there in the third row. And this row also slides backwards and forwards, which is handy. Let's see how easy it is to get into the third row. So it's pretty straightforward. You pull this and then that rail slides the seat forward and you just clamber on in. It's actually not too bad getting in and out of here. And then I'll pull this back towards me. I'll move this so you guys can actually see me. Look at that. I have absolutely stacks of knee room. And even if you were sitting here next to me, you can easily get your feet under the seat. And it's quite a good place to be seated. You also have USB connectivity under here if you need to charge your devices, and then storage off to the side as well. This is a certified 7 adult SUV. Discovery fans, I've got some bad news. Split tailgate, it's gone, but Land Rover has come up with an alternative. So you get your power tailgate and you get this guy. So one push of that button drops it down and it'll hold 200 kilos, which means you can sit there with your mate while the kids are playing soccer or doing other stuff. And then when you're ready to leave, third row disappears just like that. And you can load your luggage in as well. If that's too high, which it can be for some people, especially if they've got heavy bags, you've also got a button there that will drop the rear end to make access even easier.
In terms of cargo, there's 228 litres with the third row up. That expands to 698 litres with one seat down. Drop the third row and you'll get almost 1,200 litres of space. While if you drop the second row as well, that jumps up to almost 2,500 litres. The new Discovery is still well and truly a family car with its extra length, but while there's still plenty of room inside and lots of new technology, will this new 4-cylinder engine allow the Discovery to perform as well on-road as its predecessor?
A 4-cylinder engine in a car this size kind of gives you chills when you think about it, but this is a good unit. 177 kilowatts of power, 500 newton meters of torque, and 0 to 100 in just 8.3 seconds. And it's that quick partly thanks to the aluminium monocoque chassis. It's lost about 480 kilos since the last Discovery, and that means it'll sip through just 6.5 litres of fuel per 100 k's. Regardless of where you are in the rev band, the gearbox, it is really good. An 8-speed automatic, and it's just shuffling through the gears fairly effortlessly. Gets stuck into the throttle, and then it picks up and moves. That 500 newton meters of torque really propels this thing. Despite the fact the car's almost 5 meters long, the steering actually feels really good. It's a variable ratio, which means that it's nice and firm around center, but when you do pick up a bit of speed, you don't have to turn a million times for the car to go around a corner. The suspension is fantastic, it's air suspension, and it just gives this car a really good feel on the road. And then if you do find yourself stuck into a few corners, the body just sits dead flat. It just doesn't feel normal for a car this size. Safety is top priority for SUVs, and Land Rover's got this one covered. We're talking about 8 airbags, 5-star ANCAP rating, and you get great features like your lane departure assistant, you have radar cruise control, autonomous emergency braking, rear cross traffic alert. Every acronym you can think of, it's got it. And this stuff is super important if you do want an SUV that you're going to be carting the family around in.
That's a big tick for everyday driving, but how does it perform with over 3 tonnes worth of caravan on the back?
So 4 cylinders doesn't sound like enough for towing, does it? And that was personally my biggest concern with getting a Discovery with 4 cylinders. But I can tell you right now that in terms of feel behind the wheel, I don't actually feel like there's anything on the back, despite the fact there's over 3 tonnes worth of caravan currently attached to the car. And that's all thanks to this air suspension. It does a beautiful job of smoothing everything out. But what happens if you punch it? All right, so I've got a pin there from 40, there's 50, 60, 70. It's okay. I mean, it's not setting the world on fire. You've definitely got more headroom there in the V6, but if you're not towing 24/7, you can very confidently load this thing up, stick a big caravan like this on and go for a drive. I mean, it doesn't feel overly compromised. Are you a reversing novice, much like myself, especially with a caravan attached? Land Rover has come up with a solution. It's called Advanced Tow Assist, and it's effectively the self-parking system, but it's for cars with a caravan. So we've set up this car now to accommodate the big caravan we have on the back. We've input the dimensions of it, and in theory, we should now be able to do a parallel park with a caravan. So let's give it a shot. So we are coming to a stop. We are next to our target car. So I'm going to line the caravan up next to it. So what we do is select reverse. We then press the terrain response button. We lift that up. and then that engages this mode here for the advanced tow assist. What it says is steering control is being transferred from you to the car. So right now, we're going to steer the car using this. So if I turn this knob left, it's going to move the caravan left, but the steering will compensate and do everything else that we need it to do. So we're currently going straight. I'm going to slightly steer the caravan left by turning this, just like we would with a normal parallel park. All right, we'll flick this in. This is absolutely crazy. And this is great. So we've got a screen here that has incredible views there of the camera with the surround view. All right, that is coming back around. I reckon we're going to have a rock star park here. And it's all going to look like I've been doing it. Turn it a little bit more so we can straighten it up. So there it is, right there. All right, pop that back into drive. And then we can steer it back in ourselves. And ladies and gentlemen, we have just parallel parked a giant caravan.
How cool is that? Anyway, let's see how the Disco stacks up in terms of value.
So what's a Discovery going to set you back? Well, prices start at just under $67,000, but this one here, 86 grand it's going to cost you. This one has a few options on it as well, and they go all the way up to about $120,000. But it's the servicing that has me the most surprised. So Prado Kakadu to service is around $2,400, and you need to service it every 6 months, and that's for 5 years. The Discovery, on the other hand, you can prepay for 5 years of servicing for just $1,500, and this Ingenium diesel engine only needs servicing once every 2 years. It almost feels like a pricing error, doesn't it? But don't go running out just yet. Things can get pretty pricey pretty quickly. So you don't have to spend, $20,000 or $30,000 on options, and this car has quite a few options fitted. You can spend less, but you do miss out on some of the creature comfort. So if you do want all the four-wheel drive gear, you have to option that, or high-end infotainment. But at the end of the day, it gives you choice. It means that you can spend as much as you want on options to get what you want and to personalize the car, or you can spend very little and just drive away in a Land Rover Discovery that you're happy with. It's entirely up to you. So where does this leave us? I've got to tell you what, I am very much sold on the Discovery. I was really surprised by this 4-cylinder. It lacks just a little bit of punch when you do have a big caravan on the back, but if you aren't going to be towing day in and day out, it absolutely ticks all the boxes in terms of off-road ability and getting around the city, and also dynamic driving when you do want to find yourself some corners. To read more about the Land Rover Discovery and to see more of our car reviews, head to caradvice.com. But in the interim, don't forget to subscribe.